do we actually need to make sacrifices to reach the highest levels? Or are we actually talking about something more like choices? And some of you may think those are just words. The words have a meaning and they're very important because they frame your mindset, they frame your behavior, and they frame like they're the drivers of everything. So giving a good understanding of the meaning of the word that you're choosing will completely change your mindset. Hello, Suzanne.
Well, hello, good evening.
Thank you
Um,
for joining. You look lovely today.
oh, thank you.
What's different?
I put lipstick on. I
Okay.
didn't sleep for a week. I don't know. I'm good. I'm happy to
Oh,
be
you're
here. I'm
one of
happy to.
those who look radiant when you don't sleep.
Yeah, no, I'm not. This is just the in between before the real depletion kicks in, you know?
Thank you everyone for joining. Just give me 1 second. I will turn off my phone.
Oh, that's okay. So, can I just say I love the topic that you picked and the
How did
points
you
that
like
you.
that quote?
Yeah, well, so it brought up a lot in me actually, and I was thinking, okay, a quote coming from Mikhail Baryshnikov, like that quote, shows me actually, okay, this is where he was at or he is at in his thinking and his mind. Because for me personally, and I commented on your post too, a sacrifice has a here I say it, negative connotation,
Mhm.
where I never felt that what I was giving would have to my profession or to where I wanted to go. I never see that, never ever saw it, and never will I see it as a sacrifice.
Mhm. Let me
I
share the
just,
quote once more for the
sure.
people once you gather all your thoughts. So the quote was exactly, I think, I'm never sure with quotes, to achieve some depth in your field requires a lot of sacrifices. And just for you guys to understand, I hesitated a little bit because I don't completely agree, and that's the topic of today. But whenever you make a quote by someone like Mikhail Baryshnikov, apparently you're not supposed to have a different opinion.
Oh, how come?
It's just something that I got from a lot of people. Of course, not everybody. This is why we can have that conversation today. But actually wanted to use this chat to discuss those two topics at once. Like, it's not because
Oh,
someone
yeah.
else think differently. And I mean, you and I sometimes are definitely not on the same page. That what makes that conversation interesting.
Exactly. So let me ask you that question. Did people actually react differently to that quote?
Yeah, some people were like, if Barishnikov says it, then it must be true. And I'm like, that it is true for him and whoever thinks like him.
Isn't that the problem though in the industry? Exactly that little. Thank you for doing that research because it really truly shows. Oh, if a Mikhail Baryshnikov says, you have to make sacrifices, then I I better as well make sacrifices because look where he's at. Look what his name means.
Hmm.
Look at all the achievements. And we're only, though, looking at what we want to see, and we're not looking at, well, what does that actually mean? And what does a sacrifice mean to him? And does he really
Exactly. And
mean
maybe, and I
sacrifice?
actually think that him, you, and I, we are all saying the same thing, but we're just not using the same words because we're not giving the same meaning. And that's what I find that is interesting. What works for someone work in their world with their understanding of the world. Either you share a lot of that understanding and then you can apply it as is, or you don't, and then you have to reframe it. And also, I think what's important in that topic of if that person said, then it must be true, is that it reminds dancer at a certain level that everything they do and say is being watched. And I had that conversation with a few friends of mine um, when they started realizing that more people were looking at them because they were going higher up in the rankings, and suddenly they need to be very very careful about what they say because it's not seen anymore as just a friendly advice between two colleagues. Now it's seen as if it works for you then it will work for me.
Mm. Mm. I think, and being careful of what we're saying and how we're saying it is one thing. Yes, I understand the trouble a little bit. I
Hmm.
think that helped me back from speaking up for a very, very long time. Um, I think we should really, where from what kind of a place is it coming from,
Hmm.
right? And I want to go back to the quote and what
To
does it
achieve
mean?
depth in a field, you need to make sacrifices.
Okay. So you see, if you want to achieve depth in any kind of industry, in any kind of field, and it is your wanting your purpose to do that, then for me personally, anything I do towards that, as long as I'm being healthy while doing it, doesn't feel like a sacrifice to me.
Hmm.
And it never has. And I remember so many people, oh, you're giving up so much and your entire childhood and you're never home and you don't have friends. It doesn't bother me. Like it never came actually to the forefront of my mind that these are sacrifices. I'm like, no, I have a goal. I am going
Hmm.
there and I am choosing what my life is looking right now. And therefore, this is not a sacrifice. If I'm not in alignment with my goal, if this
Hmm.
feels hard, if it feels like, why am I doing this? I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to class. Then it becomes a sacrifice.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what Dr. Stephanie Potrak commenting as well. She said, for you, they're choices, but they can't be seen as sacrifice by other people.
Mm.
And it is because they put more value into the thing that you're choosing not to do or not to have than what you're choosing to have. Because, of course, your goal is not their goal.
Exactly. So it is actually a perception of somebody else when they're calling what you
They
do.
are calling it a sacrifice. You're choosing as a choice. And for me, that's important that as the person who's going towards your own goal, if you start thinking they're sacrifices, ask yourself why.
Yes.
Either
So
you're
that's
someone who would like to beat yourself up and you feel that labeling it sacrifice help you. Well, if that helps, okay, maybe. But I'm not sure on the long run that helps because, I mean, we have to go back to the etymology of sacrifice. It's literally to give up something that has a lot of value for you in
mm,
order to get something else. Sacrifice come from the religious world, and that was the meaning since the 13th century.
well, I'm gonna drop
Before
the
that,
mic.
actually, before that, actually, that word didn't exist. I was surprised. I thought that was way older than that, but it wasn't. So if you're choosing not to go to your friend's birthday, and actually, I'm always the first one to say, but is there any other way you can celebrate your friend's birthday? I am 100% against this idea that to be a successful dancer, you have to give up all the things. No, but you have to adapt it. Call your friend and see, okay, can you come late? Can you come at the end of the party when you finish your rehearsal or whatever? Can you do another gathering with that person another day? Maybe just like a one-on-one. It's not ideal, but it allows you to keep your friends, your social life, and also, be great at what you do. For me, that's not a sacrifice, it's a choice.
Yeah. Oh, and while we're so this is what just came in for me was that these are boundaries that we're setting in order to live the life that we want to live,
Hmm.
right? So as dancers, when you are when they are looking through their or looking at their life and their circumstances through a lens of I am sacrificing so much, then you will always operate under that kind of heaviness and it will feel really hard to actually complete anything or even to go and find different solutions on when to see friends because you're looking at, oh, I can go, I'm sacrificing so much for my job versus being open. Oh, how how else can I make this work? And I think that's where the thoughts are
Hmm.
coming in and we're taking on these kind of quotes as our beliefs, as our reality. where it actually, you could challenge it. You could, just because it's Mikhail Baryshnikov, he is a human being too. And if it works for him and worked for him back then, it doesn't mean it has to work for us right now.
Hmm.
And I think that is so important with everything that we're receiving. Like, does this work for me? Does this align with my core values?
Hmm.
Does that kind of belief or thought process or thinking even will get me to where I want to go? Will that get me to feel the way I want to feel?
Totally. And if yes, then fine.
Well,
But
I
if
would
not,
challenge that. I would really challenge that.
I will too. And because I'm very similar to you in that sense that I feel that a mindset of sacrificing to get to your goal is not uplifting. It's not
No.
something that drives you, it's not something that gives you this little boost of energy that gives you a smile and makes you want to get there. It kind of drives you down, and you're like, I'm missing out on all of this. Instead of having you focus and filtering on everything that you're getting.
Mm, yes.
That's the reason why I will challenge it. I don't think on the long term this is helpful. Maybe it gives you a little bit of a kick. Some of us need it for today, but on the long term, you need a vocabulary that is positive.
Okay, Okay, I can. The
Vocabulary.
vocabulary. Um,
This
I
TV show is also about learning English.
Yes, it is. Just so you know. Um, I what I found is that particularly in dancers, the vocabulary is very limited because dancers are not using their voices or their speech very often. Many dancers are afraid of talking because they've never practiced it, and neither have they accumulated a bigger vocabulary in order to express themselves. So sometimes it's even the lack of words to know how to call certain things
Hmm.
that holds other people back from actually diving a little deeper into quotes like that and understanding the difference between sacrifice and choice, for
Yes.
example. That's that's really what I have. But I think that it is important that in anything that we're doing, that we're looking at it from a perception of this was my choice.
Hmm.
I'm not sacrificing anything. Like, I can change that at any given point. If I don't want to feel this way anymore, I can choose something different.
You can, yeah.
So it doesn't become the sacrifice, perhaps, right? And
And yeah, go ahead.
and actually, I thank you. I feel like this is a little bit. I'm calling it out. It is the problem that we're seeing in the industry, that it is so heavy. It is a sacrifice. You have to suffer for
Mm-mm.
success. If you want to, then you have to. And if anything, 2020 has shown us is that let's challenge all of those beliefs. Let's really question them. And are they still valid? And how much are we hanging on to them because we think it's, you know, I don't know, helping us to find clarity or
Hmm.
validation as an organization? Or is it just something that we have just moved on and moved over decades and decades because it's comfortable?
Hmm. I think what's key and important in what Mikhail Baryshnikov was saying is that to get to a certain level, there are hard choices. This is the word that I prefer to use,
Yeah.
that you have to make. It won't happen easily.
No.
It won't happen overnight, and it won't happen just because you believed it. Um, and for me, this is the key message in there is that he's saying you have to make hard choices. You have to work a lot. You have to be dedicated. You have to be focused. The only part where I disagree is that if you're calling them sacrifices, it looks like you're giving up on a lot of things that you value. Do you really need to do that? But the
Mhm.
fact that you have to put on the effort, the intelligence in your work, because it's not just hard work, it has to be smart. Um, that yeah, you will have to make choices some days between going out with your friends or going to sleep because you have a long day tomorrow. I know a lot of my friends are not seeing their family as often as other people.
Because they're
That's
making
the
a choice to take care of themselves first because they want to show up the next day at their very best self
yeah.
in the studio because
But
it's
that's not
important
giving
to
up
them.
on your family because your family is looking up to you as someone who's succeeding. All you have
And
to do is
setting
send a little selfie at the end of the performance.
and also setting an example, right? That I do have boundaries. Like I am not pleasing somebody else's need. I'm not fulfilling somebody else's
Hmm.
wants. And I'm at that point, for me, it would be a sacrifice because I'm putting my needs second to over my family. Um, that me taking a break or me staying at home versus going to a party
Hmm.
is taking care of my future self.
It is. It is.
Right? Yeah. And I
But
think that's what we can learn. Sorry, go ahead. You want to say something
oh no,
before
no, finish, finish. You know, there's a bit of delay sometimes, so
before I
I thought you
doodle
were
off.
finished.
Um, it it is a hard choice to make at times
Yes.
because you don't sometimes we don't want to. And this is I think where discipline or you have a certain level of discipline. There's freedom on the
Oh,
other side.
discipline is a great word as well for this. Discipline, yeah.
Because you have to have discipline in your head too,
Hmm.
right? It's not only your body, but it's in your thoughts too. What kind of discipline are you establishing? And with that discipline, all of it
Hmm.
comes freedom on the other side because you will be so much more capable and maybe have later on more time. Like maybe not in the moment, but you're creating something that will pay off 100x 2, 3, 10 years from now.
Yeah. And I think I wanted to help people also understand that in those choices, it's neither black or white,
Mm.
yes or no, all of this or all of that. And I think I mentioned it very quickly, but I want to spend a minute on that. Sometimes you have a clash in your schedule between two things, but it doesn't mean you have to give it up completely. You can maybe reschedule it another day. Maybe you can, as I said, like come up at the end. I have a lot of friends, they used to just come in at the party after, like after the show, stay for half an hour and then go. That's better than not showing up, you know. And sometimes we
Yeah,
forget that we have that flexibility.
and that flexibility comes with the perception on how we're seeing the
Mm,
things that we're capable of or not can't do or can do. I think it's the black and white approach has been, at least for me, I can relate to that. The black and white approach had been really hammered into me, You can't do anything else but dancing. You can't be, bigger and be a great dancer. There was no gray. It was always
and you're a
black and
woman and
white.
you have kids. Have you heard that you can't have it all?
Oh, right. I can't have it all either. So that
And many women have proven, yeah, actually, we can. We just need
oh
to
yeah,
switch
exactly. And
because the
that's
way we were seeing family life and work life is not the only way. You don't have
yeah,
to come back at 8 o'clock and wait for mama to have done the dinner. There are other ways to make it work. And here is the
yes.
same thing. There are other ways to make it work.
And being open and having actually the energy, the brain capacity to move yourself into that more open state from making a statement to asking a question, right? I
Hmm.
think that's all it takes. And it takes a lot of rehearsing for it. It takes a lot of practicing to get to that point that you faster and faster and faster when you find yourself in a situation where you maybe feel like it's a sacrifice,
Hmm.
you then can ask the question in order to reframe it. So
What do
yeah,
I really want? Where am I going? Is that helping me?
yeah, exactly.
What am I giving up to get there? And do I want to see what I'm giving up as a sacrifice?
Yeah, I don't. the giving up is such a hard word for me to take in because again,
Sometimes we have to give up positive things. I will always remember I had a coaching session one day, and we were going through the questions to help um, me, in that case, for once I wasn't the coach, define my goal. And so one of the questions is, what are you giving up? Um, and I was only thinking about negative, and he said something that just stayed in my mind ever since. You're not only giving up the positive things, you can also give up the negative things. And the first thing that came to my mind is that I'm gonna give up my stupid boss.
oh yeah.
And he started laughing. It was like, see, by achieving your goal, you're giving up
Mm,
something negative.
that
And that
isn't serving
completely
you.
reframed my idea of giving up on things. It's more of like walking away from things.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that.
So
So
just another example of how reframing completely changed your mindset. It completely changed the way I was going towards that goal after that. I was like, yeah, I got nothing to lose actually. I have everything to gain because even the things I'm gonna lose, it's cool.
yeah, they don't belong to you anyways, right? Yeah. Or we're not serving you. Um, I want to bring up an example, and I put it out in my email newsletter, or I will. Um, and I remembered it because it struck me so deeply when I was in Berlin a few years ago, and I went back to the State Opera and I reconnected with a few people. There was a couple that was in their early 30s, and they said they really want to leave the company, but
Mm-hmm.
they're too old to go audition. They want to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, but have you tried auditioning yet? No, this is what everybody's telling us is going to happen. So we have to sacrifice our happiness in order to have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And even at that point, I was like, oh, that just doesn't feel right to me at all
Yeah.
because they always have a choice. Um, and now more so when people are getting back into the studios, like what is your, how much are you willing to settle for in order to, I don't know, go on stage or have a paycheck or feel fulfilled or feel like you made it?
Okay, guys, I don't know if I've lost Suzanne or if I've lost you, but I think we're going into a close up on this topic anyway. So I apologize for the little technical issue here. I think we've lost Suzanne. So topic for today was to discuss sacrifices to reach success. So the idea was, how do we reframe sacrifices into something that is positive, that gives you willingness to go out there and conquer your goal, and reframe into a choice and looking at the things that you are deciding to do or not to do as something positive and as a choice. And then the second also takeaway is that when you're making those choices, it's not at all or nothing. You have endless possibilities. So be smart and be wise and like look out there what you could do. Thank you for watching In Charge of Your Career.